This is a special edition of Primetime Thursday.
Good evening, I'm Peter Jennings. The program you are about to see comes on the heels of yesterday's massive raid against an international drug ring smuggling millions of doses of ecstasy into the country. More than 100 arrests were made in the U.S. and Canada. Our program is about this drug, ecstasy, which the government has been unable to control.
You know, when I think about it, that first time, it was like 2.5 hours of complete and utter rest. Rest from worry, rest from anxiety.
You can walk up to perfect strangers and have a conversation with them like you've known them your entire life. You smile at people and they smile back. Like, you just feel like part of something, like everyone loves you and you love everyone else.
My 19th birthday party, I had like 15 of my closest friends, and we all did it, and we all just sat in a room and just bonded, and everybody like opened up and shared and gave massages to each other, and it was still, if I look back, probably the best birthday I've ever had.
Young people don't just like this drug, they almost love this drug. The experience of it is particularly capturing, which makes it particularly frightening at the same time.
When you're having a good time with chemistry, you tend to forget about the possibility it's going to turn on you and cause some real problems for you.
Using ecstasy is much like a game of Russian roulette, in which we put one bullet in the revolver, spin the chamber, and pull the trigger. The law of averages suggests that somebody is going to get a bullet in the brain.
A friend had some, and so I tried it because it sounded like it was wonderful, and it was.
This was perfect. It was like, split it in half if you want, take the whole thing, pop it in your mouth, zoom, you know? Couldn't have asked for something easier and better.
This drug may be one of the hardest drugs to effectively prohibit, because it seems to create lots of satisfied customers and a relatively small number of unhappy customers. And a drug like that is likely to spread far and wide.
It was the most beautiful night in my life. It was the best feeling I've ever felt.
The world was never like this before. How could it be this beautiful now?
Yes, it changed my life.
You just look at everything in the most positive light. It's a great feeling.
Having a new major drug arrive on the scene is something that happens every half century or so. This is a major event in drug history.
The facts about ecstasy use are astonishing. According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, hundreds of millions of ecstasy pills are taken by Americans every year. Nearly 2 million new users are recruited every year. In the 1990s, ecstasy seemed to come out of nowhere to join marijuana, cocaine, and heroin as one of the 4 most widely used illegal drugs in the country. No other drug has ever spread so fast. So how did it happen? After decades of waging a war on drugs, how did ecstasy emerge from total obscurity to become an illicit drug of choice for a generation? That is our story, about a drug that has become a nightmare for the government's drug controllers. Ecstasy came into this world as 3,4-methylene dioxymethamphetamine, or MDMA for short. It didn't exist in nature until chemists working for the German pharmaceutical company Merck synthesized it by accident in their laboratories in 1912. No use for the new molecule was discovered, and MDMA remained little more than a formula on faded paper for more than 60 years. It was the scientific quest of this man, Alexander Shulgin, that rescued MDMA from obscurity.
I've always been interested in psychopharmacology. How much could I use my skill at creating new compounds that are psychoactive? How many could I make that would be different?
In 1966, Shulgin quit his job as a chemist for Dow Chemical to devote himself entirely to the study of psychoactive drugs, drugs that alter the mind.
What I'm searching for are materials that could open up ways of understanding how the mind works. And each of these materials was a tool, a research tool, with the different colors and different shades and opening up different parts of the mind. MDMA is one of these.
In 1976, in his laboratory near Berkeley, California, Shulgin synthesized MDMA, which was not illegal at the time, and tested it on himself.
I saw it as almost like an intoxicant. I could see where I could have gotten really into the knack of using it, except my search was not being pleasurably turned on. My search was finding new things.
Shulgin called it window, because he thought this was like looking through a window of the world at the world the way it really is, that we have covered over by our habits and so on. And as we remove those barriers, we see it in utter clarity. And that's what MDMA does. It melts, dissolves away those barriers. We see the world as it really is. It's a marvelous experience. I highly recommend it.
MDMA is one of hundreds of mind-altering compounds that Shulgin has synthesized and tested. In books and papers, he has published the formulas and the effects of each. His critics argue that Shulgin is simply providing a roadmap for drug abuse.
I believe that every single thing that is known about a drug, good and bad, should be available to everyone who's considering using that drug.
One person Shulgin thought should try MDMA was his friend Leo Zeff. Zeff was one of the leaders in an underground community of psychotherapists that was treating patients with LSD and other psychedelic drugs.
Leo thought MDMA was absolutely outstanding, just almost unbelievable. He went on a campaign and introduced MDMA to therapists all over the country and even going to Europe. He told me that he'd introduced about 150 therapists to MDMA and how to use it properly.
Dr. Leo Zeff, he introduced me to it, and I was immediately impressed, as he was and many others were, by its usefulness. The very fact that it doesn't change ordinary perception very much, but changes the feeling tone, the feeling quality, and reduces fear, thereby allowing you to look at, in a kind of impartial way, things that are normally just too anxiety-provoking to look at.